Welcome in to DC On Screen, a podcast about the DC Universe properties being brought to film and television. I'm your host, David C. Robertson, and this is Jason.
Hello.
All right, well, this has been a long time coming. We've been talking about doing this for most of the summer. We are reviewing the 1990s Flash series.
And I have no apologies for how long that took. This was work.
It's been a tough ride, man.
It's not. I mean, if it was a book, you wouldn't call it a page turner. I don't know.
Oh my God.
There's not actually a good phrase yet for when something is a page turner, but on Netflix, like a Netflix turner or a next queuer or a
Flix turner,
a next clicker, a click nexter.
Next flicker.
Hey, sit there for 15 seconds while Netflix picks the next episode. I don't know.
Right. I think that's just called. Canon yet. I think that's just called a coma.
You call it a coma, I call it Saturday. What do you want?
Oh man. So the reason, as we have stated, that we are doing this, we decided to do this, was because one, they've brought in characters from the original 1990 series into the new series. Even though the old series is not canon, elements of it seem to be.
And
like they
now we have watched the series and can verify this. There's no reason they can't be.
Yeah. They brought in Amanda Pays as Dr. Tina McGee, and they brought in the dude who played Officer Bellows, and now he's Mayor Bellows. And they also brought in Mark Hamill as the original Trickster, and wound up showing footage and shots from those old episodes.
Right.
So in this version of it, there was no Flash to stop the Trickster. The police stopped the Trickster in this reality, but they have John Wesley Shipp, the original Flash, in this show as Henry Allen. So there's no reason why he can't be a Flash from a separate reality. And we kind of think they might be going that direction. Actually, someone asked John Wesley Shipp if they were going to be throwing him into a Flash costume soon. And he seemed cagey as hell and went, it couldn't be that costume. But yeah, no, he was real weird about it. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but
did he mention
it wasn't
flipper
exactly
hands?
News. No, but it wasn't exactly news, but it also wasn't something that shouldn't be noted to some degree because he seemed real weird about it.
I don't know why they couldn't do it. It'd be a fun story. You've already got the Flash 90s series sitting on a shelf doing nothing.
Yeah.
You've already used parts of it. You pulled back the best part of it. You pulled the Trickster back into it.
Yeah, and we did think it was a little bit weird that they would release the entire series on CW Seed at this juncture.
That was the other part. There was a lot leading up to deciding that we had to watch this show. Curiosity was at play at first, and Curiosity was beaten back by the weeds of discontent, I'd say. It's not. Yeah. Okay. All right. I've already said it's a bad show, so I'll move on. But knowing that there's so many things that could work about it, we just wanted to be ahead of the game if it actually does work.
Right. And I think here's the thing: as bad as the show was in terms of pacing and special effects at times, and basically in just general overall story, there's not like a big overarching story being told.
No, which is a shame for that many episodes to not be able to tell one cogent story.
Well, I mean, it was a product of the time. No one wanted to do that kind of,
Yes, Serial was. It wasn't as popular as it got to be. You and I were talking about like Chris Carter as a contemporary at the time. Was kind of, well, as you pointed out, going back to like the X-Files, he was weaving in a serialized story over the week-to-week stuff, and I guess at the time he was kind of getting away with it. We hadn't gotten to, the Sorkins of the world hadn't taken over and started just shoving the serial thing down our throats.
Really, at the time, I would, aside from something like, Melrose Place or 90210 and one of those nighttime soaps or whatever, Dallas or something like that.
Right.
Most shows didn't really go into the serialized format. the X-Files and then Star Trek Deep Space Nine are two that pop right in mind as two of the front runners. It wasn't really that, and they were considered crazy for doing it. The X-Files did it to a fair amount of success, and Deep Space Nine never got, that's where the Star Trek franchise started losing viewers.
Yeah, there was real splintering at that point.
Yeah, there was a lot of splintering, and but those were always my favorites. Like, I hated, like, Next Generation was very procedural and standalone every episode. There wasn't a lot of continuity, like, going into like a storyline. Deep Space Nine really had that. And but
that was what started gripping me. I mean, that's my preference, is I want to see you tell a story over a long series of time.
I would say it didn't even completely really start to take hold, though, until Netflix.
Well, like, now it's just plain taken over, because you can drop 13 episodes at a time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you couldn't do that before. It's part of it was that people made money off syndication. Just that was the goal. You get to 100 episodes, you can resell your series to another network, and now you're selling it for free money. You don't have production costs. You don't have shit to pay for. You've got a few royalty fees to dish out here and there. But, something like a Star Trek, it's not like you're using an old Beatles song any damn where. You're not going to it's free money. And that was the point, was to get them up there to the free money period. But you didn't want to bet on syndication for airing everything at the same time, or airing it in the right order, or whatever. So you wanted people to just be able to get attached to a show, come in and watch it every week. If they missed a week, whatever, come back. It was supposed to be light, I guess, in that sense. But it missed a lot of the drama that you can pull off with a movie when you have a story that's being told like that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Lost was another one that was really great for that. And I think a lot of shows have taken that to heart, and that's kind of where it is now.
Yeah.
But back in these days, standalone was the way to go. That's the way you had to do it. So, I mean, everything.
Don't get me wrong, I know there are exceptions to what we're talking about. We're talking about the zeitgeist of it. That's what it looked like, and people were toying with it. Like, we've already brought up Quantum Leap in reference to The Flash.
Right, but even Quantum Leap, like, the opening credits, like, gave you the premise, and every episode was a standalone episode. Right.
It was every, like, season finale or so, you'd happen to get it. And I did. I watched Quantum Leap in syndication. I was exactly one of these people that was watching an episode and thought, what did I miss?
Right, but then you jump over and you look at things like, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., which actually gave, like, chapter titles to every episode.
Right.
You look at
something
like, right? You look at something like Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks had a very deep mythology. Yeah, and it died. It died a swift death.
It died hard. Yeah.
The precedent was, let's do this shit Law and Order style. Let's do standalone adventures and move on with our damn day.
Right. Look, that's like, Hollywood isn't. The people who make it are creatives, and the people who run it are not. The people who make it are the kind of people that want to go do something crazy, want to do a serialized and bite off more than they could possibly chew and try to get it anyway. And the people who make it, though, they want to make a thing that has proven to make money. I mean, the people who actually put money into these things are the people who want an ROI. They want their money back and more, so they bank on what they've seen work.
Yep. So for that, I can't completely be against the 90s Flash, because, you had the first initial problem of the show. I can get over a lot of stuff. I can get over bad special effects. I'm an old school Star Trek fan, old school Doctor Who fan. I like these old effects. They don't bother me. So
the old hints, like Labyrinth, for instance, still looks great.
Yeah.
Still looks better than a lot of CGI. Fuck that. Puppetry was where it was at for a while.
So, I can get over bad special effects as long as there's a good story and good dialogue, good personifications of characters. And I understand that dialogue changes from decade to decade. The way people perceive the world and the way art is created changes significantly. But again, I can get behind a lot of that stuff as long as it's intriguing.
We're not going to get on to someone for saying that something was rad. Okay, things happen in time periods. Whatever.
Right. But this Flash series, number one, they had a number of problems. One, they were trying way, way, way too hard to be Tim Burton's Batman. From an aesthetic point, point of view, they were trying so hard. Like,
no, they had they'd seen Beetlejuice.
They were playing around with the timeless nature that Gotham is doing right now, that the Tim Burton Batman movies did, and that Batman the Animated Series did. By the way, there are some big connections with this show and Batman the Animated Series, as Danny Elfman did the main theme, and Shirley Walker did the full-on series score.
Yeah.
Also, they had Mark Hamill as the Trickster. Animated series Batman had Mark Hamill as the Joker. I mean, you can look at it. It looks it's displaced in time. They have computers, but the cars look like they're from the 1950s.
Right. And their computers are even their computers are kind of in a vacuum. You watch the computers in this show, and they meant it to be one thing. It did not play for me like that. And I'm trying to take away the fact that I'm trying to peel away the years, and it still doesn't. That still wasn't the right choice. I mean, I grew up with computers, man. We like our age group. We grew up in the digital age when it was developing. You know, we were getting dial-up modems that were faster, and like a 56K dial-up modem at one point was my Christmas present, and I could not have been happier. Like, that's where we are on this. I remember looking at these graphics, and I remember how shitty they were. They could have made better graphics. They made different, weird, off-putting graphics instead. It didn't play. It just didn't play, period.
It did not.
They didn't create that timelessness they were going for. It was Looney Tunes.
One of the other big problems, I would say, for this show, other than pacing, let me just get into pacing real quick. All right, so...
We're not going to pace this actual show, so yeah, go for it.
This show...
This is going to be Willie with a side of Nilly.
It was like whoever was writing and directing these episodes had no concept of the 3-act structure.
No.
Because you would get a climax,
Absolutely
and then you would get the climax for the show, and things would be over, and then we'd get like a whole 4th act.
Right.
Where, I don't know, Barry and Julio were hanging out, or what was his name? Was that his name, Julio?
That was Julio Mendez. Yeah, Julio Mendez.
Julio Mendez. Okay. So he and Julio are just hanging out and going on a blind date, and you're like, why? I don't know. It would just be weird like that. It was like you need a whole act for an epilogue.
Yeah.
I just like these episodes are in comparison. You know, I watch Arrow and Gotham and Flash, and I'm like, by the end of an episode, I'm like, no, not yet. I've become like so addicted to the cliffhanger ending that I'm like, okay, here comes the ending, and then I look at like the little time stream, and it's like, I've still got 10 minutes left. How?
No,
how do I have 10 minutes left?
The worst part for me was you would be sitting. I would actually schedule time in my life to sit down and attempt watching this show, and I would. It was frustrating, man. You'd watch an episode, you'd click play, you'd sit down, you'd eat a hot dog or whatever the hell it was, and watch the damn show, and just you get that feeling that something's about to happen. That you were halfway through. You'd watch certain scenes, or in the rare event where you actually could figure out, oh, this is going to be the climax. Gotcha. Okay. Or you're watching going, yeah, the Mirror Master hasn't been taken care of yet. I know that's going to be a thing. So you're not fooled by the pre-climaxes. Great. So you actually know that's going to happen, and you find yourself sitting there watching going, watching the build-up, thinking like 15 minutes worth of screen time has passed, and it's been 4.
Yeah. The show feels very slow.
It was a slug dragging its ass through molasses sometimes.
Yeah. And, God. So I want to ask you this, because you're a dog person. Did you get tired of Earl?
No.
You didn't get tired of Barry constantly talking to Earl like he was a human, and like all the cutesy dog shit that went on in the show? You didn't.
I think you outlined your entire. I think you asked and answered your own question. By referring to me as the dog person, I can infer that you are not the dog person, and therefore you wouldn't understand that what we do is talk to our animals as though they were the bearings of our feelings. No, that's not weird. You don't get tired of it.
Okay.
My dog has an IQ of about 4. I talk to her every day.
Yeah,
now,
I get that.
I mean, I didn't get tired of the cutesy dog stuff. I did. There's come on, it's a show that ran from 1990 to 1991. I don't even want to say the S word before we start this. So somewhere late in the series, spoilers. It doesn't even deserve saying. It's not even spoilers. It's the other S word. We're saving you. We're saving you from all of these conclusions, from all of this judgment, from all of the time you'll waste.
I think there's a concerted possibility that one of the reasons I hate the Earl scene so much is because I feel like they paid a certain amount of money for a dog trainer to come on set with a dog that was an actor dog that would, do things on command. So they said, okay, we have to justify this, and we've got to have the dog in every episode for an extended period of time. Therefore, we have to concoct, we have to find ways of making it to where in almost every episode, Barry has to have someone come hang out or stay with him at his apartment. And every time he has to be like, what, me? I mean, I guess you could stay. I don't know how many times I heard in this series, I can bunk down here with Earl.
Actually, no, at least 3 times. Yeah. And that shouldn't be like a major return point in your series arc and someone hangs out with the dog.
Right.
I'm filming Wishbone.
There's a show I haven't thought about in a while.
Hey, welcome back, buddy. There's the story.
So, okay.
No, the dog, and a show that spent this much money on graphics this bad, I don't think they tried to milk the dog trainer. I think they just actually thought it was a good decision.
No, I think they had him on retainer, like they had to pay him, and they had to justify that. That's what I think.
Somebody somewhere was sleeping with someone else.
Yep.
And somehow that resulted in a dog trainer that was employed for longer than they should have been.
Yep.
I don't know. I just
speaking.
My heart, and I keep thinking Earl was a good dog. He was a pretty dog. Let's leave him on the show. It's that simple. Like if you're a dog person, I guess in this scenario, you're good. I'm good.
Speaking of dogs that were employed for longer than they should have been on this show, that asshole Joe Pike, the guy that kills Jay Allen. What a terrible character. What a terrible actor.
Actually, I completely disagree about the actor.
He was awful.
I actually completely disagree, but I think he was awful in context. I think if you put him in the right spot, he was probably pretty damn menacing.
What is the right spot?
Another show.
What show could it possibly be?
I'm not sure exactly what he could have been doing. He reminds me of every villain I saw in early 90s television. He seemed to fit the bill pretty well. I didn't feel like it was this wasn't his problem. And I liked the way he carried himself. I liked that laid back charisma to it. I actually kind of half dug the Pike character. I actually did.
No, I see. I would think not Joe Pike, Nick Pike. That was Michael Nader. Okay. I figured from my knowledge of you and over the course of our friendship, we've had many conversations, and I was very, very certain that you would completely hate his character and hate the actor because nothing in this show screamed terrible 80s decision more than his character. He was a poor man's Kurt Russell.
He was. And I think the only part of that equation you're missing is that this time period is 25 years ago, and I've forgotten the contemporaries enough to judge him as the poor man's. I'm not looking at John Voight being cast and thinking, I mean, you couldn't get Walken, could you?
I mean, everything about this dude was overblown, motorcycle riding, bomb throwing, leather jacket, scars on his face.
This is the poor man's Lobo.
Your brother begged for his life. He was pathetic.
You know why I liked that scene though? I really
punched him?
Yeah, the look on Barry's face when he punches him is he actually had me for a second. It was an entertaining show there for a sec. He punches him and he's just yelling, "Get up!" And he sold it. John Wesley sold it.
Yeah, for just a second, you forget that John Wesley Shipp is wearing parachute pants,
right?
As he wears in every episode.
Oh, there are a lot of those. There are.
And there are so many tropes. It's there's so many tropes. You get Julio making fun of the way Barry dresses and stuff. And then
he's wearing the 14-colored shirt.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, that's right. Tell him, Julio. And then you see what Julio likes wearing, and you're like, oh, you're that guy.
Yeah.
You're essentially every member of the cast of A Different World combined.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the guest anchor on a series that I enjoyed on MTV in the early 90s. You're that guy who showed up the week that my guy was on vacation. And I always went, oh.
Yep. Oh, now, as much as I'll joke about Julio, I love that actor.
Yeah.
Every time I see him.
Every time I've enjoyed him.
Liked him on Boy Meets World. Liked him in Becker.
Can we say anything more than we liked him on Becker?
No, we can say more. We liked him on Boy Meets World.
That's a good point, too. What we're saying is this man has been in terrible properties for his whole life, and we've still enjoyed him, so clearly he's good. I think he should be elevated above this level of material myself, but I'm waiting for that breakout gritty role. Maybe he should come be the police captain in Gotham now.
I don't think so. I don't think that's a good call at all.
Oh.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
you shot down his clobber in time, but no, never mind.
Okay. Different thing. Go back and listen to that, guys. Now, tell me if you agreed with this though. To go back to your pacing. In a way, if you blur your eyes enough, like this show kind of has the timing of the Batman the Animated Series. In a way,
it does. In a lot of ways,
it paced itself. The dialogue was spaced that way. It felt like that sometimes, but somehow it didn't work here.
Well, the reason it didn't work is Batman the Animated Series was a 30-minute show, and this was an hour long. If they
it felt like an hour and 45 minutes long.
Yeah, if they had wrapped it up in 30 minutes, that would have been the optimal, I think.
That would be a fun supercut experiment. Could you cut down the episodes of The Flash enough to actually make them good television?
I'm sure I could, but I'd have to watch them again.
There have to be lines that you draw in life,
All right. Now look, man, I don't want to. There are obvious things that we can make fun of in this show. Like for a good, probably almost half the season, they just have him going up against normal guys, it seems like, and that was real boring.
It was. They should have left that real early on. And to be fair to the show, they had every intention of going into season 2 with a real rogues gallery.
They did.
But that was poor foresight. How much money were you spending on those graphics?
We have a lot of cool people showing up. Bryan Cranston shows up as Philip Moses.
God, so young too.
Dude, Jeffrey Combs showed up. Adam West showed up. I can't hate on some of these decisions.
These weren't the worst thing that happened.
By the way, and I have to call out, episode 3 is called Watching the Detectives.
Right.
Any show, I don't care how bad the show is, any show that names an episode as a reference to an Elvis Costello song has my approval.
Yeah, that's a good call. I can deal with that.
There were actual cool things in the show, though. There were actually good things in the show. Like, I actually enjoyed Captain Cold.
Yeah,
the only way it could have been better is if they had switched the actors, like, because he's working for this guy named Swain, I think, and that was Jeffrey Combs. If they had just switched the actors and Jeffrey Combs was Captain Cold, I think it would have been cooler. But
cooler, you say?
But I did like that. I did like this dude, whoever was playing Captain Cold.
Yeah, I tried to find him other places. There was IMD being happening, and I really couldn't find any other damn thing I'd ever seen him in, which confused me because I swear I knew his face, and I liked his role, man, but couldn't.
Oh, one episode that I actually liked a fair amount, Twin Streaks.
Hated that one.
A play on Twin Peaks, but I mean, how could you hate that one?
By the way, if you're playing on shows that died,
right? But yeah, I mean, how can you hate that though? How?
I got real bored with. Don't get me wrong, it was kind of fun to see. It was more fun to watch John Wesley Shipp do something completely fucking different. I actually really enjoyed that part, but I got so bored with the premise. Like, I want to say 20 minutes in, but it was probably 10.
I like whoever the scientist was that was playing the dude that created him was awful.
There's a lot of that happening. Whoever was playing the scientist that blah, 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 insert X here, was awful.
Right. But I liked one. Blue is my favorite color. I really enjoyed seeing a blue Flash. And
that was hard for me not to enjoy.
I know. But yeah, like John Wesley Shipp did a really great job. Like I loved that Pollux was so like angry and grief stricken. Like he wanted Barry's life. He wanted to know where he came from. All of that was really well done, I thought.
A lot of the actual character stuff was fun. It was just, I wish they'd,
And then he sacrificed himself for Barry. He sacrificed himself for Barry. That
the
brought
story
a tear
on
to my
paper
eye,
was good. It did not bring a tear to your eye.
It did.
Not this show.
I don't know. I got maybe a little moisture in one eye over Pollock's demise, over his sacrifice.
I don't even know where I feel hypocritical now because I on the one hand I really enjoyed John Wesley's performance of Pollux. On the other hand, I got the episodes feel so long that I was done with this whole man-child thing, and I kind of wished it had been more nuanced and that he had grown more and matured more. At the same time, you can't mature really. You can grow and develop capacities, I guess, but there's just whole classes being taught about whether you can mature in that kind of time frame and nature versus nurture and yada yada. Bottom line ended up being I got bored with the man-child thing about 25 minutes in.
You know what actually really bothered me about that episode was that his hair didn't grow in the chamber.
Yeah, that's a good point. They got to a certain level, and I guess there must have just been a barber there constantly.
Yeah, I mean, he was just in the incubation chamber. And he comes out, and he has like no facial hair,
and shaving him. Really, I mean,
yeah. I mean, geez. One of the big annoyances for me in this show was the constant revolving door of women that Barry had to date.
Oh my God, it was strange, and I mean, they only had one good mechanism. It really was. There was one good mechanism for actually getting, I guess, possible suitors into his life, and it was just Julio and Sabrina. So. Yep. Julio sometimes pushes dates on him. Apparently, Julio's, is it fiance, girlfriend, wife, whatever, his significant other, pushing other blind dates on him. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he spends most of his time with Tina or running around beating up people or doing work at a lab. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of opportunity for him to go on a date. Anyway, so
they start off
shoving
the show
it
with
in,
Iris.
though, to have new love interests like every freaking second or third week minimally.
And this is like one of the most morally confusing issues on the show because they start off with Iris. It seems like he'll lay off of the marriage thing and she'll be okay. And they're together. Second episode, she's off in Paris, which is fine because she was a terrible character. This Iris was a terrible, selfish character.
She was weird. Normally.
And the fact that they wrote her and I know they wrote her, they wanted to do the nod to Iris, so the fans will be like, yay, Iris. But, I mean, this is a woman who winds up marrying Barry Allen in the comic books.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
I would have honestly been happier if they just took her out of the first episode entirely and used the she's in Paris premise twice.
Right. And,
she's in Paris the entire time and have him look really sad when he gets off the phone with her and we kind of know, okay, the lost love. And then you don't have to show me this terrible character you came up with that has nothing to do with the canon.
Yep. Now, I mean, they're... But so you have Iris and she, she doesn't even really necessarily... I don't even think she breaks up with Barry. I don't even know. But maybe she sends him a Dear John letter. Julio wants to keep putting him on dates with these weird girls. And, oh, yeah, that's so funny. Ha, ha, ha.
Right. It seems like there was a lot more blind date comedy in the 90s. Is that just something that came and went?
Well, the internet happened, so no need for blind dates anymore.
That's
you can
a good
just look
point.
up anyone on
you
Facebook.
You can Tinder the hell out of somebody.
Yeah.
I was so confused. I'm not, people are going to think I'm lying. I've never been on Tinder in my life.
Me either.
Because
that came around long after I was been in a long-term relationship. And
right. It has never come up in my life. So I was so confused the first time I heard a reference on, mass media that said, oh my God, they're a swipe left or whatever the hell they'd phrased it as. Some part of me vaguely remembered like hotornot.com and I kind of thought, is that a what hold on, does that mean they're ugly? What happened now? What happened right now? And someone explained it to me very slowly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how your time frame exactly lines out, but I remember being single during the MySpace, OkCupid, whatever. I'll call it a fiasco. When I heard that there was a thing called Tinder, I was never so desperate to hold on to my relationship. And
It's the best thing that could have happened.
I very much love my girlfriend and plan on being with her for as long as this mortal coil will sustain me.
Right.
So, to even be more beholden to that means that there's true fear there.
What you're saying is that Tinder pushed you pretty far. Pretty far onto a ledge that you didn't know extended that far. I understand.
Man.
But
dating.
it's still like the blind date jokes seemed like they kind of went the way of the airline food jokes,
Yeah, but, by that measure, though, I kind of enjoyed it more than certain other elements of the show.
Yeah, certainly.
Because
they were mildly entertaining in what was otherwise sometimes a vacuum of entertainment.
But I don't know. Okay, here's something I really enjoyed. Everything involving Nightshade.
I was gonna guess Nightshade. Damn it! I was trying because I was. I was sure you were gonna say Nightshade. I completely fucking agree. 100%. I would have watched a Nightshade series in a heartbeat.
I would have too, man. I loved friggin' Nightshade. He was awesome.
He really was. He really, and I ended up really. I would have watched. I kind of did. I wanted like a 6-episode miniseries about Nightshade and what they call him, Night Frost. What was his little? What was that? What was that? He was a criminal. He's kind of right between rat and honest criminal, if that's possible.
Oh gosh, what was his name?
That poor bastard. He's in like 7 or so of the last half of the series. He's all over the place.
Wait, what? Who is this? I thought you were talking about the bad guy in the first Nightshade episode.
No. The guy that keeps turning on all the criminals. It's the guy. The deadly Nightshade episode where Nightshade has to come back and prove that he hasn't gone all lethal on everyone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Somewhere at the end of that episode, the real Nightshade walks into the criminal bar, but what would be the Iceberg Lounge if you were in Central City.
Oh.
And it's like the guy who he sits down with and buys a drink. It's like something Frost or something.
Yeah, it's like Frohickey or something. Fosnight.
There you go. Fosnight.
Yeah, he was in like a few of the first episodes and then was not really in the middle of the series, and then he was
ton of the last
really
episodes.
In the last few. He was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wanted like a little buddy cop show with him and Nightshade for just a few episodes. Just breaking off a few, man. Just a little Kit Kat.
Yeah, no, like a triumvirate is Fosnight, Nightshade, and Alpha.
Yes.
Right.
Oh.
And we will never speak of Omega, the Terminator ripoff again.
God help you, no.
You must come back with me. I am Omega. Oh,
I am not a copyrighted ripoff. Please come with me. It was so bad. Although I kept what was the show from the DCAU that we lost? The one that we can't find. I'm really bad with names right now. We've been doing this too long. Zeta. All right.
Oh yeah. The Zeta Project.
Yeah, Alpha ended up being reminding me a lot of Zeta.
I can see that, yeah.
And sure enough, every time I've seen that concept of it, I've really enjoyed it. Then again, I was a fan of Data when I watched Star Trek.
Right. She was one of those things where she was another one of those instances where, like, I don't know, they put a woman into a scene and then tried so hard to make, like, they had like every guy talking about how hot she was, and it was so weird and off-putting to me.
It really was.
Oh man!
And I'm
looking for next year's model.
Yeah, I want to say it's.
Oh.
And even Frost Knight there saying like she wishes she was alive, and he's like, I wish you were too. No, man, you've already developed some like paternal relationship with her. Don't betray that with this weird sexual comment. You.
Yeah, it was weird.
Deranged asshole. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
They kind of like Alpha in particular. There was a lot to that. They could have made a show out of that might have actually worked, but they would have had to leave behind all of the forcing that and it was awkward. Like the first couple times they mentioned she was pretty, you kind of go, okay, well, I mean, she's a good looking gal, so I was willing to play with that. We've established it as part of her character. Cool, great, move on. No, then they just keep doing it the entire time, and the entire time I'm sitting here thinking, this was a 25-year-old conception of what was an attractive woman. Things change over the years, and it's been a minute, and no, those bangs aren't acceptable anymore. It was weird. It was real weird. Things change, and they ended up focusing on it so much that the timeliness of it was completely lost. When you went back and looked at this, you didn't have the sense that they were concerned with timeliness, other than the fact that they tried to do that faux nouveau thing.
Well, it wasn't even in that like fun kind of playful sexism they did, like in things like Magnum PI, where it was well paced and kind of funny that they were so chauvinistic.
Right.
It was just awkward, especially like as you mentioned, like Foz Knight totally had like a father-daughter connection with this chick.
That was the most endearing moment with him in the entire show. Is he actually like sneaks up behind the guys who are trying to abduct her and grabs the gun and just run. Yeah, he has a complete character turnaround. That's right before he puts on a habit and tries to panhandle whatever.
Yeah. Now, jumping back to Barry's love life just a little bit, how annoyed were you that he never actually got together with Tina?
I'm right on the 50 mark, man. On the one hand, sure, they were threading that leash the entire time, whatever. I mean, I'd like to see the
classic will they, won't they trope.
Yeah, I'd love to see that wrapped up one way or the other, but it could just as easily have been dealt with like there's a fun thing of you see every now and then. There's a couple shows that have used it.
Yeah.
That where they have like one awkward kiss, and then they realize, you know what, that whole energy that's we're friends. Okay, great. Like one awkward kiss somewhere in the middle of the season, and then they're just friends for the rest of the season. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. It happens in real life, for God's sake. I could have done either way with it, dude. If they had ended up together or ended up not, or if it had been addressed or not, fine. I got bored with the trope.
Yeah.
Not sure they would have been great together exactly, so I wasn't exactly hurt.
I have to talk about this episode. I have to talk about a couple of more episodes. One, fast forward. Yes, it had Nicholas Pike in it, and no, I didn't like that. But the idea that the Flash goes 10 years into the future was so intriguing to me. I really liked the episode despite Pike.
I can deal with that. No, fast forward, I thought was one of the bright spots.
Yeah. One of the low spots, Be My Baby. Sadly, the one with Bryan Cranston. How many damn times did they need that kid screaming in the episode? I was so tired of hearing that baby cry. And it was always for like comedic
Albert
effect.
Bell the entire damn episode.
It was like the entire episode. It was like, now it's time for another comedic beat. Tina and Barry try to figure out what's wrong with a crying baby.
Right.
And now that wasn't enough. Let's put him in a whole room full of crying babies. I want to talk about Mark Hamill now. Can we talk about Mark Hamill now?
I'm almost sure. I mean, we can always go talk about other things if we feel like it. So there's no guidance here.
Man, I really loved Mark Hamill in his episodes.
I don't know how you
the
know.
Trickster and the Trial of the Trickster.
Yeah. Here's the fun experiment. If all you do, say you've made it this far into our review and still care for some reason, go back and just honestly believe us, listen to us, have faith. We're saving you from watching this series. For God's sake, don't do it. Especially don't do it like CW Seed. It's. I hate doing this to CW because they've been so kind to us, giving us all these shows, but their site sucks like hell. Watching something on CW Seed is an absolute bane. They need to work on that. It's like watching something on Hulu about 7 years ago.
Yeah, if you really just have to watch it,
go buy it for God's sake.
It's like $10 at Walmart,
right,
dude.
It's much easier to watch, and maybe there'll be a special feature. I didn't do that. I actually suffered.
Go to a Target, go to a whatever you have to. It's like $10.
There are bins everywhere, and anyone who's ever had them in their inventory has flushed them out because there's a current Flash series. So it's hanging around. Find it.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Please, just if all you do is go just YouTube Trickster Hamill and close your eyes and just listen.
Well, one of the really fun parts about his Trickster episodes is he's not always the Trickster. Sometimes he like play acts these different kinds of roles. When we first meet him, he's captured Megan Lockhart,
Right.
And he's like this. He's James Jesse, this crazy ass magician,
Right.
And he has a different voice and everything. And then at some point, you know, while they're looking for James Jesse, like he actually goes into the Central City police station. With these weird fake teeth and does a really convincing job as like an FBI investigator. He tricks Barry.
Right. Of course.
Which, by the way, none of these characters are that hard to trick in this show.
Really
They're
difficult.
half retarded. They're half retarded. They
It's
are.
pretty bad. Everyone here has the basic competency of like a current Gotham series police department officer.
Like I'll reference the Mirror Master episode, and I think that's the last I'll reference it. Other than just like the Mirror Master was a huge disappointment and boring as shit.
I'll say one more thing about him.
Like,
give me 2 seconds. Sam Scudder, don't bother. Not worth your time. Abandon that version of Mirror Master. Stick with Evan McCullough.
Mm-hmm.
It will be grand. Mm-hmm. Move on.
Now, I mean, these are people who like they got tricked by a hologram of a cowboy.
Of course.
They got tricked by a hologram of a mime. They're like yelling.
And we're not talking about independent
and,
groups. We're talking about the same group of people in certain circumstances.
Yes.
Awful.
Yeah. Like, oh, it's just like that hologram of that cowboy that I tried to save, and he wasn't. Okay.
Right.
Oh, officer, I know I didn't see you come in, but thank God you're here. Something terrible has happened. Why are you ignoring me? Oh, he's a hologram. This is what we're dealing with, people. But I don't even. But God, Hamill's Trickster was actually like I actually forgot where we were going. But Hamill's Trickster was a lot of fun. His episodes were a lot of fun, and the final episode is the trial of the Trickster.
Oh wait, I can take you back. You were going through the fact that Hamill, through his course of being the Trickster, takes on like 3 or 4 different characters.
Yeah,
and does a great job.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to. What I was going back to. The trial of the Trickster. Like he had done this whole thing where he decided that Megan Lockhart was going to be Prank, his little sidekick or whatever.
Right.
And some crazy chick decides that she's going to be the real Prank and busts him out and whatnot. And there's this great bit where like she's successfully busted him out. And she's maybe even a little crazier than he is because she doesn't he starts going off about how he's going to be this Russian pianist next. He doesn't even care about staying the Trickster. Like he's just on to the next guy.
Yeah, that part was kind of interesting. He's like the most villainous character actor of all time.
Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, you're going to be the Trickster and I'm Prank. Like she is committed to that. It was interesting. It was really kind of cool.
That part was fun.
And, they did a fun thing where he winds up just being a completely misogynistic asshole. He brainwashes the Flash, and by the way, he doesn't completely sound like the Hamill Joker here.
No.
Only in bits.
It's really it's about honest to God. You take every scene. Now we can't just say Hamill while he's in the show because you're right. He takes on several different characters. Just when he's the Trickster. Mm-hmm. Just when he's in that costume. Because even when he's just James Jesse hanging around, it's not quite the same. Mm-hmm. When he has the blue cape on, just listen to that. And close your eyes, and it's 50%, I would say 50%, exactly what you're going to hear when you hear the Joker. There are variations and riffs, and there's all that, but like parts of it are just perfect. There are little giggles here and there. There are full-blown maniacal laughs here and there. You can just hear him asking Charlie what he thinks for his 2 cents. It's perfect.
Yeah, it was really well done. He made it work even though they forced him to wear this awful leotard.
Oh, it's terrible.
And
that's what he looks like though. I mean, shit. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Now
he does make a couple of references about like, oh, it's not colorful enough. It's too subdued. He does have some fun with the fact that he's wearing this awful costume.
Oh yeah. Now he brainwashes the Flash, and they go around wreaking havoc on Central City. And they actually change the name of the town on the sign to Tricksterville. And at the end of the episode, after it's all wrapped up, you can see that they've changed the name back to Central City, and they've added the addendum Home of the Flash.
Right.
And it wound up being a really nice series ending.
It was.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
But I liked that.
I mean, I liked the shot. I like the shot of him zooming past, and he does. He like zooms past the edge of the city, and the sign wavers under the wake. Great. Why are we forgiving this asshole that quickly? Like he was brainwashed. He's a giant weapon. Like I thought it should. Like how many were there? Was it 22 or 23? It was 22 episodes. The 23rd episode should have been the trial of the Flash. We could have cut out something somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll say "Be My Baby."
Oh, I have an idea.
Put Bryan Cranston.
How about the entire?
Else. Make Bryan Cranston.
How about the?
Friends.
Yeah, or the entire obligatory Denise Crosby dates the Flash.
Oh my God!
Plot.
Oh my dear God!
I mean, that was in every like late 80s, early 90s TV show. Was Denise Crosby comes in as a hard hitting blah blah blah, and then winds up dating the protagonist, and we move along with our day, and we never hear from her again. I mean, I understand things were tough, Denise. I understand things were tough because you foolishly thought that you should stop being on Next Generation to, quote, pursue a movie career.
Right.
Then wound up doing softcore porn for Cinemax. But that doesn't explain why people kept employing her.
No, to be fair, I have made worse decisions in my life than she. And I would venture to say I have suffered worse consequences than doing softcore porn on Cinemax. Depends on depends on where it is. They weren't nearly as publicized, but I'm sure I could find some instance.
Right. One notable recurring cast member was Joe Klein. That's where I got the Joe Pike from. The WCCN news reporter, played by Richard Belzer.
Yeah.
Mostly known for Homicide, Life on the Street, and Law and Order now.
It's funny you mentioned Homicide,
kind of
Life on the Street before Law and Order. Just funny to mention him in that order in particular.
Well, his character Munch was a main character on Homicide long before he was ever on Law and Order.
Was it the other?
No,
I thought he appeared on. We'll get into that another day. I thought he appeared on Law and Order briefly. They pulled him in, and then he came back and solidified.
Yeah. I mean, they crossed over a lot. They were in the same universe.
I don't know. Listen, no one can be accountable to Dick Wolf's world.
Not even some of his shows.
Right. I was ashamed. Like I enjoyed Richard Belzer as an actual stand-up comedian. I always thought I enjoyed him on all the Law and Order stuff. It was Law and Order is something you can kind of, if it's on, you can kind of watch it and it's okay. I was never just tuning in, but he's always been fun to watch. This is no exception. I enjoyed the fuck out of him here.
Yeah, but this is a guy that apparently no matter what he says, like everyone in Central City just believes him.
He is the voice. He is the voice of Central City.
Well, yeah. Like everyone believes him wholeheartedly and blindly, unless it happens to be a woman and we happen to be spending any amount of time with her in whatever episode it is. Like if it's a woman or a cop, they're gonna be like that sleaze ball.
Something I didn't like about the supposed voice of the city. He practiced ignorance a lot more often than I would like from the main news voice in the city. Didn't seem to look into the story too much. If he showed up and the Flash looked like he was in a bad situation, he didn't bother asking about it. He just kind of went immediately to the punchline, or not even punchline, to the headline. He was one of those kind of characters, and that always bothers me.
Well, I mean, this was the Flash being ahead of his time because the character of Joe Klein was basically a foretelling, a precursor to the Fox News panelists, or to be fair, the MSNBC panelists,
or just
any of these news network people.
Just panelists in general. We don't watch a lot of news anymore. There are reasons. I'd like to think of him as the precursor to Vicky Vale.
I have to bring up a couple of the cops. The Central City cops. Oh man, have you ever seen a couple of cops who were in a drama? I mean, these guys are worse than the two guys over at Brooklyn Nine-Nine that we mentioned earlier.
Easily.
These guys are awful. What was it? Murphy and who was? Gosh, the guy that's now
Scully?
the mayor on the current Flash.
Isn't it?
Huh? Oh, I'm not talking about Scully and Hitchcock now. I'm talking about the guys that were actually on the Flash. I'm talking about Murphy, who was apparently a Playgirl hair in his younger days, still with the mustache.
I did torture you with that.
Yeah, I'm at
You
work.
may never forgive me for exactly that moment.
I'm at work. I get a text that says, Murphy was a Playgirl hair, and I'm like, what? And he sends me a very vague link. I click on it, and it is a naked Murphy sitting in a crouched position. Thankfully, they cut the picture off before his junk came into play, but not before the pubes.
No. Unfortunately, there's a whole lead up.
Yeah, and he's got the mustache and everything. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why would you do this to me? And Jason texted back, I require someone to share my burden or something.
Right. I
required that. So I sent it to Bethany.
Oh, Bethany, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's my fault. I apologize.
Yeah. She was like, what?
No, we're in our 30s, and there's a moment where you ask for an adult.
Yeah.
Looking at Biff Maynard's pubes requires an adult.
So there's a whole subplot with Bellows trying to prove that Murphy is the Flash, and it's awful. It's awful.
Terrible.
And
it's terrible. It's poorly acted. It's poorly conceived. It's poorly executed. The whole thing's fucking terrible.
How bad?
Bad.
How bad is their captain, the hair-lipped dude?
Pretty damn bad. Like, the only time I actually enjoyed him was the episode. Again, we're not going to name these episodes. Come on. The episode where he has the soon-to-be fiance that gets shot. He's actually a little bit delightful for that episode because he's kind of human. The rest of the time, he's a bullhorn. I don't care. I don't care what he's saying. He's always just, the ignorant fuck walking into Barry's office demanding something.
Right.
Or he's the guy, like the episode with the one time where they gave Julio some real, what did you say his name was?
His real name?
Yeah.
Alex Dessert?
There we go.
Something like that?
Okay. Well, we got close, as we always do. That guy, the one time they actually gave him some real work to do was the episode where it's his old friend that this amazed me. All right. So we're in the Beat the Clock episode, and
Beat the Clock was a really good episode.
I have a couple problems with the episode.
I do too, but I was invested. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. I was invested.
I don't know how. I had several problems. Okay. First of all, why have I not heard that Julio's best friend is about to die until an hour before he's going to fucking die?
That's a fair
Dude,
point.
if I had terminal cancer and I told you about 2 hours before my last T cell went up, I think you'd be pissed.
Yeah, I wondered that too. Don't get me wrong. Now, do you think that the show is so unsalvageable that it shouldn't be made in some regard as far as multiverse capacity? Do you think it's so bad that it shouldn't be a part of the current Flash, or do you think that it would be a welcome addition to have some storyline root off from that series?
Well, and in a way, they already have. We already have the Trickster.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying, like, if they actually made this 1990s Flash series a multiverse, like or a separate universe, a parallel reality where Henry Allen is actually Barry Allen,
right, from
another timeline, and basically would make the 90s Flash series canon, would you be able to handle that? Would you be able to accept that?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's where I stand too. I don't think it was that bad that I would not be willing to embrace it into the canon.
No. I could pick any episode and tell you a number of things that were just frustratingly bad. But
most of it was in presentation and editing. It wasn't really so much like an unbelievability of the show.
Right. Well, unbelievability of the show as a whole, no. Unbelievability. The suspension of disbelief for each character given each scene was absolutely a crapshoot. Anybody at any given time could be making a decision that had nothing to do with the rest of their character concepts.
Yep.
That's frustrating. That's frustrating as a viewer because you need to be able to put people. There's a reason pigeonholing is a problem with actors. It's because we get used to seeing a type and a face and a specific face, even because we have brains and they're programmed for that. You grab a face, you put it in a hole, you put it there, and you can't get out of it. And dude, something like this, it was so hard to try to use. like there are good sides of that. You can use archetypes and stereotypes and, don't misuse the terms. Some stereotypes are good, not in the sense that they're applied to real humans. That's obviously a poor use of the problem. Stereotypes are good because you can actually use them as part of archetypes and funnel them into a character concept and make that part of the character and then branch off from it. You can explore portions of humanity entirely by wrapping something up, pulling it in, and then spreading the tendrils. And with this, it was all over the place. It was schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. It went there. You could tell that there weren't really good, clear designs for each character, telling what their ins and outs were, what made that character tick. Hell, I don't think you could have told me like what kind of music each character liked on any given episode. We've already talked about the jazz.
Yeah,
certain just things about what make a person tick. They weren't there. They weren't fully developed. And when it was at the character's whim or at the writer's whim. I mean,
yeah,
it was all over the place.
I mean, it was a little odd that, I guess one place where they succeeded with that is like Tina McGee was always so very concerned with her work. I like the actress. She seems a lot better on the current Flash when I've seen her. And actually, it was funny. Like the day after I finished the day after I finished the Flash, I watched her on an episode of the X-Files. Like, I just turned on, I've been watching through the X-Files, and she was on an episode as like an old flame of Molders, and on the same episode, Badger from Firefly was in it as a pyrokinetic or whatever.
That's a nice roundup.
It's a lot of fun, right?
That is.
But yeah,
That's a nice what for.
That is a nice what for. That's for you, okay. Bethany.
Let me look over my notes. We have notes for these things, in case anyone's wondering. Because, for God's sake, how do you not? We've hit most of them. I'm going to bring up two things.
Okay.
Now, I do have the words levels of cheese scratched off in a corner somewhere, but I'm assuming that we've covered that roughly, given the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of cheese, with that costume of Barry Allen's, of the Flashes, it actually looks pretty good, but I don't imagine any possibility of him not having Fermenta cheese running around in that skin-tight suit all night.
That's entirely fair. There's some chafing. There's throwing that out there.
Like, I don't know how his genitals aren't infected, honestly.
Talking about a genuine skin disorder at this point. And, oh, God, I hated the costume for exactly this reason. And I did. I genuinely hated this costume. I thought it was too muscly. It was too weird. It was.
Yeah, he's pretty in shape anyway.
He was in shape anyway. You could have shown him.
This is another situation where they wanted this like molded bodysuit, and the show did a pretty good job of explaining why he had that padded suit to like keep his skin cool while he was running. But I don't know. Half of me thought it would look really cool for what it was.
Like in a place like Star Labs, you can explain that you have a suit that has like a thermal conductor of some kind that has a whatever. Anything they've done in the actual Flash now, like sci-fi didn't develop between now and when the Flash aired. Graphics did, but H.G. Wells was writing 100 years ago.
They spent so much money on that suit. They could have just gotten like a water wicking suit, that like actual runners use,
right?
Painted it red or
bikers,
a red version of it.
I mean, actual bicyclists, not bikers.
Honestly, the show probably would have stayed on the air if they weren't spending so much money on the suit because they had to make and repair that suit
in which he cannot turn his head.
Man, that was. Well, I think they so much wanted it to be like the '89 Batman movie. So badly did they want that.
It even appeared in the background with the music, as you pointed out. I forgot about that. I noticed the sign. You pointed out the music.
Yeah, they actually had the Danny Elfman Batman score as he's walking by a movie theater. There's a movie theater with a sign that says double feature Batman, Superman. And there's the actual Batman, Michael Keaton. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. I have a giant poster of it just right next to my computer.
Right. You just actually own that poster and it sits there all the time.
I do.
Because good for you, damn it.
Yeah. So it's a call back to little 6-year-old Dave going for his 6th birthday to go see Batman.
I got nothing. It sounds like a happy memory.
It was. I think my mom referred to her car as the Batmobile for like 2 weeks after that. But
that'd be nice. That'd be nice. We had a lot of Ghostbusters references around that time in my life, actually. But
yeah,
whole different conversation.
We did too.
Whole different conversation. Mm-hmm. Look, outside of the Batman canon, all right, the eating thing, Barry eating goes way too fucking far. There could have been some cutaways. They spent money. They spent actual money having someone take a giant like box full of cereal and scoop away every single spoon out of that cereal. They spent time and money on that. That cost thousands of dollars an hour in 1990 or 1991. I don't give a fuck.
I don't know if you noticed, but near the end of the series, they would just cut that out. They just had like Barry sitting there with like 10 plates on top of each other, and like the waiter being like, another, and he's like, no. There
you go. They spent way too much time on his eating habits. I mean, I know it's a funny gag. I understand the metabolism thing. Great.
It's not that funny.
But at the same time, it's funny as a mention. It's not funny when I see him eat all this every time. And it's less funny when how are people not... Okay, look, one of the greatest problems... I want to say problems. One of the greatest psychological problems with Americans in particular is psychological concept of fat. I mean, it's something you think of constantly. This wasn't different in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, what? Why weren't people holding him hostage, like literally tying him to a stake, asking him how he just ate 10 meals and looked like that? There should be people holding him at gunpoint. Richard Simmons, in particular, should be holding him at gunpoint.
Yeah, I mean, okay, in the baby episode. I mean, he was like, help yourself to the girl with the baby who wanted a pretzel, and she takes 2, and he looks like he might actually slap her.
Right. To be fair, his metabolism is much higher than even a pregnant woman's.
Well, she wasn't pregnant.
I'm sure that's true.
He had like a large grocery bag full of gigantic pretzels.
Right. And think about the ramped up metabolism. Like, if he ever fucks up and eats a piece of celery, does he just wither and lose 25 pounds body mass right then? Is that how celery works? I was told if you eat a ton of it, you're just suddenly skinny. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the dangers of having an accelerated metabolism.
Okay, I have one more just little nitpicky problem with the series that I would be happy to point out. I forget who it is, but they're mentioned as, and I'm going to quote this part, short conning for Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah, that was funny. I don't know what it means.
Well, a short con is a quick job. That part's clear.
I know what that means. I just don't know if in this universe there's a gigantic sentient gorilla running around talking about how he hates bananas to...
That's the part that I'm really concerned with, is you can't just throw in a line like short conning for Gorilla Grodd without explaining that it's daily news what has happened to this hyper-intelligent gorilla.
Well, here's the thing. It could be either.
That would be like an Osama bin Laden that was shaped like a giraffe loose in the Midwest United States. I would want to know on a daily basis what was happening to that guy.
Number one, it's a fun throwaway line for the hardcore
confusing
comic
throwaway
geeks.
line.
2, it actually is a setup for a Rogues season 2. 3, it could as smart as Gorilla Grodd is at certain junctures in the comics, it could literally be a gigantic gorilla,
right,
who operates in quiet and actually does just like give his orders through like one henchman who's in charge of the daily operations and carry like a little his own little Waylon Smithers. No one actually knows that he is like a gigantic gorilla, like in the back office,
right? You know, right. Yeah, that could work. That could work.
Or it could very literally just be like a really big dude that has been nicknamed Gorilla.
All of these are possible. Fully admitted.
I like to think it's the
got
former.
Me. Any one of those things. I actually do prefer the former.
Yeah.
All of these things are entirely possible. You just can't drop in the line Gorilla Grodd as though there's some 7'9" gorilla with literally the man is psychic. That can't be in a universe where people are still so unbelieving that there could be a metahuman, that there could be someone who was as fast as that. Like, we can't live in a universe with that gorilla and that man at the same time.
Well, I mean, pretty much by the time we got to the Ghost episode, everyone was pretty believing of it. They just didn't care. They were just like, yeah, all right. There's a guy that cryogenically slept for 50 years, and there's a guy who runs fast. We're good.
Yeah, the show got used to it over time, but it was never I don't know that part. That part I could be considered to be being too picky at that point, because there actually is. It's almost an agreement you make with comic book entities portrayed on screen that the media, for the most part, unless you're using it for something useful, should just kind of stay the hell out of it. Mm-hmm. So you can't have every single storyline spiral into Instagram madness. You know, that's the reality of where a lot of these storylines would go.
Yeah. All right. So does that do it? Does that do it for us?
I think so. I can only hope that if the only real hope we had for this is that if you were watching The Flash currently and realized that they had used a part of the Flash 90 series and were kind of curious, that we've summed all that up for you and saved you some time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was our giant goal.
Yeah. Bad hair, bad sets, great music.
Bad effects.
Lack of character development. Nah, that's all I've got, man. I mean,
awkward dialogue, poor pacing.
There are actual episodes.
Truly bad editing here and there.
Yeah. There are actual episodes, like full episodes, I would say, are mostly worth watching. Mm-hmm. Right out of the gate, the Mark Hamill stuff.
Let's do this. You have the list of episode names available?
I don't anymore.
Huh. Oh. I'll pull them up real quick.
Okay. Let me find it. Typing stuff.
The sound of things being typed, except it's not. It shouldn't necessarily be there.
It's the sound of typing. All right, I got it pulled up.
Name 2 episodes you should watch that aren't Trickster or Nightshade.
Oh.
That was going to be really easy. You're thinking, why did I have you pull up the sheet?
Yeah. I was like, Trickster and Trial of the Trickster.
Glance at the episode names. No.
The Trickster and Trial of the Trickster. That is it.
Not the 2 actual story arcs that existed there. The entire series, by the way. 2 whole story arcs, all wrapped up in 4 episodes total. Not even combined.
Yeah, so you want me to name 2 episodes that are worth watching that don't have to do with the Trickster and or what? Nightshade?
Right.
Okay. Fast Forward is one of them. Let me see. Yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, that silence is
actually, Shroud of Death wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty good. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, but guess what Shroud of Death is?
What?
Is that not a Nightshade episode?
No, it's not. It's when the neo-fascist group, the leader's daughter goes after Lieutenant Garfield.
Yeah, you're right. That's Garfield actually being human for a second. Okay, yeah, no, yeah,
that was a good one. That was actually a good one.
I can buy that.
Actually, Sins of the Father was pretty good. Episode 6, where Henry Allen is being targeted. They actually got into some good stuff with Barry and his dad. Actually, for the first time, his dad's a human.
The Barry and his dad. There's about 5 minutes of really good Barry and his dad stuff, and the rest of it is just
Honor Among Thieves wasn't terrible. It was actually pretty good. That was the museum episode. I'm not saying there are a lot. I'm just saying. Oh, actually, you know what? The Captain Cold episode was amazing. I really liked the Captain Cold episode.
Captain Cold was good. I had 2 picked out. As I was listening to you try to find the internet, I'd picked out 2. I was going to say Alpha. I eschewed Captain Cold because I thought you would actually use it. And then I was going to pull a trick answer and say Ghost in the Machine. It defied my own rules was the point. It's the Nightshade episode, the first one. The thing is, though, I actually enjoyed that villain enough that by itself, that episode was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So I was going to vote for Alpha and then about 1/3 of one episode that's still qualified by my rules.
Right. But the unfortunate thing for you, though, is that you say that you wanted me to pick out like 2 that didn't have anything to do with the Trickster or Nightshade, and I listed like 5 or 6. And then when you add in, 4. So it felt like more. As the Flash goes.
That's how the series goes.
Yeah, but then I picked out 4, and then you add the 2 Nightshade episodes. That makes 7, 6, something like that.
I've
forgotten math.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I had Anyway, so 4 episodes. The 2 Nightshade episodes makes 6. Then the 2 Trickster. That's 8 episodes out of 22. That's close to half.
You couldn't make it through the end of that sentence. You tried. God help you, you tried. God help you.
I did, but it was so bad.
And even with me adding alpha to the mix, it's still 9 of 22.
Oh,
I think
man.
the point remains.
Actually,
if anyone was planning on watching this, we may have saved you some time. Actually, we may have saved you as much time as you would actually spend fighting CWC to watch an episode.
Right. Actually, I want to add Beat the Clock to my list, so that's 9 episodes out of 22 that I'm not
adding Beat the Clock. That'd be 10 if we're just accumulating with no vetoes. If there's a veto, I'm not adding Beat the Clock by any stretch.
Yeah. Tina Is That You was almost good. Like the first 5 minutes of that episode was amazing, and then everything after it,
and then everything went
after
bad.
It was awful. Everything else was awful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we did what we could with this series.
We did what we could. Not so bad. You should banish it though. Anywho, I think we've gone on about this for longer than it actually deserved.
I mean, they put 22 full 50-minute episodes into the thing, and we talked about them for about, I don't know, what is it, 2 episodes worth at this point almost?
Yeah. That is going to do it for this review episode of the 1990s Flash series. We are DC On Screen, and we are a proud member of the Giant Size Team Up Network. If you like this show and you want to help us out, because it really does help us out, please give us those 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes and Stitcher, and you can also find every episode at dconscreen.com. If you would like a similar podcast for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, go check out our friends Matt Carroll and Jeff Randall at the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. MCUcast.com is where you can find those guys. We are done for this week, and we will be back actually before the week is up, probably with
it's barely it, like, because
news.
of technical difficulties plus blah blah. We're not even close to this week, right? Like, realistically, we're taping 7 episodes this week.
Yeah, that's how it is. So
that's how it really is going to roll.
Until we show up with more DC news and reviews.
It'll be fun. I mean, we got Gotham 203. We still got a news episode. The news is still breaking like all hell. And then we got Flash and Arrow
premiere this week. Yeah. We're going to have fun this week.
Shit. I mean,
we've got a lot to do.
I don't even know where to get started. It's going to be a fun week, as you said.
All right.
I regret nothing.
I don't either, man. So until we see you guys again, keep some DC on your screen.
Dear God, it's a marathon.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it. We pulled it off. Morty.
Yeah.
And there's our stinger.
Please don't make our bad Rick impressions the stinger to anything. Just let them die.
Let what die?
Our failed attempts at mimicry. Just let them die.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.